So need to get our blender plugged in here, maybe. Maybe. There we go. Okay. So for making pulp, we need to get our, let's see. We need to get, this is mat board. And so I always tell people when you're making paper that whatever the quality of what you put into your paper is the quality you get out of your paper. So people come to me and they'll say, oh, I made handmade paper, it's terrible. And I'll say, well, what did you make it with? And they'll say, newspaper or magazines or somebody. I even had one person tell me they made paper out of toilet paper. And I was like, oh, okay. So if you make paper out of things that are not good quality paper, you're not going to get good quality paper out. So mat board is really high quality, so you're going to get high quality paper out when you make it with mat board. The other good thing about making paper with mat board is that you'll get a color. So whatever color you want. So this, whatever color you start with, it's going to be lighter because you put the white in with it. So if I use a dark purple, I'm going to get a lighter purple. The first thing you have to do when you start is put it into a tub, and then you are going to soak the mat board. Every piece of mat board has, I'm going to put this into soak, and then I'm going to show you something about mat board, a different piece. So every piece of mat board has on the back of it a piece of paper that's glued on that you do not want to pulp. So when we soak it in here, that piece will start to come off, and it takes a couple of minutes, so we'll just let it sit in there for a couple of minutes, and it'll pull off of there. So, and if you let it soak longer, it'll actually just pull off of there, but for this, we'll just take it off. So you want this piece to take off. We'll see if this one's coming off. Yeah, see this is, you can see the glue. That the longer you soak it, the more you'll just get off this last piece of it. But it's okay to take off a little more. You just have to make sure you're getting off that really gluey piece. Okay, and then once you have that piece off, you can start to make paper. And you're just going to get about 2/3 of a blender full. You don't want your blender to be all the way full to the top, or you will spill water out. Let's get it in there right. Okay, and then you're going to take your mat board, and you want about a handful. And the other thing that I now need to tell people at this point is you don't want to put in too much mat board, or you'll just end up with a blender full of goop. So you're really trying to we're going to use it in our vat over here. So we're making a vat full of pulp. And so you want enough water in there that when you put your mold and decal in there, you're not just in Play-Doh, basically. So you want water and mat in here. So you just put in a handful of the mat board, put that on, and then on these blenders, there's a little blue thing, and you just let it run for about 30 seconds there. And turn it off. And now you can see, you want to make sure it's off before you put your hand in here, but you can see it's starting to get pulpy. Now you can see there's still some chunks in there, and we don't really want chunks. You can choose how chunky you want it. If you want chunkier paper, you can, but usually you want a pretty solid, I don't know what. Well, you want it to be all the same. right? So you want it to get, but you don't want to grind it all up at the same time because you'll burn out your blender. So you have to go in 30-second batches until it gets all the same looking. It basically looks like a smoothie when you're done, but you don't want to drink it. So now you can see it's all kind of like cottony. And I'm going to run it for about 15 more seconds and then put it in my vat because I still see some purple chunks in there. Okay, and that looks about right. And you can see that it got a lot lighter too. And so then once you get your blender full of pulp, you take it over to your vat and pour it in your vat. So you can see I just have a little bit of pulp in the blender. I need to make enough blenders full of pulp so that it will cover my mold and decal. So the mold and decal is this deep, so I need my vat to be at least as deep as my mold and decal is thick so that when I put it in here and pull it out, it will cover it up. So I need probably 3 blenders full of pulp, maybe 4. So.
I just realized I should have soaked it as a big sheet rather than a little sheet to peel the back off.
It doesn't matter. Actually, if you soak it as a little sheet, it helps
It
makes it go faster. Yeah.
Should I use a whole little piece or just, is that enough, do you think? I'm going to put some of this in there.
So, it won't matter. I will just say, you know, you can always, if you have too much and it's going to want to put your pulp in here, you can just take it out and put it over to the side when once you're done pulping.
This floor can get wet. You can do anything to it.
And that's the good thing about paper. I always tell people, you know, when you're painting, if you get paint on stuff, I'll go places and after pulping, I'll have like a little bit of this pulp on me and you just peel it off, you know. Or if you get it on your floor, you just sweep it up. So paper is
Relatively tidy.
You know, I mean, it makes a mess, but because teachers will always say to me, oh, you're going to make such a mess, but it gets a little wet, but then it cleans right up. So as long as you don't, the biggest mess you make in your classroom when you're making paper is if the kids have those little name tags on there, you know, all the little things. You have to clear off their desks, but once you clear off their desks, then it's all happy.
Their tables are always clear.
Well, you're in an art room.
Yeah.
As a traveling teacher, you know, if I go into a classroom and they have all that stuff on their desk, then.
So it's roughly a quarter sheet of mat board for a vat of pulp?
Yes. Okay. This is a pretty loaded vat right now, right? So I have quite a bit of pulp to my water.
Okay.
So if I have this much pulp to my water, and somehow I have a piece of string here, but if I have this much pulp to my water, I can add water to it too. I could just add water.
Yeah, it always amazes me how little pulp it takes.
It does not, yeah, it does not take that much pulp to get a sheet of paper. String. I don't want the string. All right. So since I know that my vat is pretty full right now, I'm just going to add a little bit of pulp to this next one and pulp it. And I've had kids make, and it looks pretty cool too. Now you can see, when you were saying you wanted to save the chunks, Nancy, yesterday, I've had kids you can see the chunks in this one, and add some of, like at the last bit, add some of them, then you get really chunky paper, and that's okay too. I mean, it's all what you want, right? I mean, paper making is a craft and art, you know, you can do, that's what makes it art, is when you start making different things. So if you make it all the same purple, you're going to get a nice uniform light purple sheet. And that's probably what you want to do for your first sheet, right? You want to make that nice uniform sheet. And then you want to start playing and adding and doing, and yeah, and that's the fun part. I think that's the art, when you start making all of it different and doing. Hey. If either of you have any questions at any point, just holler at me. I take direction well. Okay, wait, we need to plug you in. Hang on.
Right there.
Yep. Let's get this one.
Okay, and what colors of pulp? You get a third color?
Yep, you can mix pulp, you can mix, let's see, you can mix pulp, you can mix pigments before you put it in the pulp, but you can also mix the pulps. I will say, so a secret that not many people know about, can I plug this other one in real quick? A secret that not many people know about mixing them is if they're different temperatures, they will not mix, which is kind of fun because then you get a marble effect. So if you wanted to not have them mix, and say you took hot water and you made a red pulp and cold water and you made a blue pulp and you mix them together, you would get a marble sheet instead of a purple sheet. But if they were both warm, so if I make this purple and you made your pink with really cold water and you put them together, they really wouldn't mix that well. And so then when you pulled your sheet, it would be marbly rather than straight.
Well, that explains all disasters.
Oh, really?
Should I put more in here?
Yeah, I've figured that out by just experimentation. Should you? That's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's about right. So if you put too much in, it will work. And so even if you put too much in and you get a blender full that's, and it won't be you. If you get a student that just put all of this in there, the blender will probably grind it all up for them and it'll be fine. And once they put it in their vat, just have them add a whole blender full of water to make it be able to make paper, and you'll be fine.
And do I do it on high or low or?
I usually just high and hold the lid on and
Or do I have to like?
so let's see. Here we go. I'm gonna put these over for you guys. Okay.
To me, it always feels kind of silky when it's
Oh.
kind of like maybe just
So there's a test you can do. Do I have a little? Nancy, do you have a jar of any sort? Like a jar with a lid? It's out. And you shake it up. Your fibers should be pretty much the same size and shape. And so if you see chunks in there when you do that, especially when you're using, this is for recycled pulp, it's not as big of a deal, but when you're using natural fibers, you can really see the fibers separate when you do this. But you can kind of see them now, and you can kind of tell that they're doing pretty well. And you can also, when you put your hand in there, you
I
can...
just didn't know if it was enough of the pulp, I guess, in there compared to the water.
Oh, yes, for sure.
Okay.
It doesn't take much pulp to make. Do one more blend also. And then maybe I'll go get water for us. How are we doing? Yeah. Okay, blender. Oh, I should have used the water out of here. And that's going to dry a nice like cream color. Now you have a little more chunks in there than you want. But you're getting the feel for it now, yeah? actually feels kind of like oatmeal when it gets right, which is why it's hard to paint with.
Okay, so do I need more pulp in there?
You need enough to cover your mold and decal, so I would say, if you look at your side, actually these are going to be good for this, so I would say yes, one more blenderful for you. Or you can add, let's see, I would add because it's still pretty thin, so I would say add one more, because you're not going to need to add
water in there to begin with.
Yeah, so you're not going to need to add water. I, on the other hand, need to add water to mine because it's a little, maybe not. I'm going to add a little bit of water to this one.